the thought of is this person alive or dead that really lingered throughout the film. You're just like, why are people treating him like this? Or is he a walking carcass? Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl Florence, aka Flo. And honestly, like, I just have to say that I am thankful for all of you who actually have tuned back in, because I know it's been a minute. Relax, wait. It has been a minute, and I have missed you guys, and I've missed actually making videos like this. So I'm so happy to be back, and there's a whole lot coming, honestly. So please don't give up on me. Stay tuned, because I'm going to be giving you back to back. Today, we're going to be talking about a movie that I've been literally singing to like my family and friends to go and see in cinemas, and it's called My Father's Shadow. It's one of these films that honestly I am so proud as a Nigerian, not only as a Nigerian but as a Nigerian filmmaker. I'm honestly proud of content like that being exported internationally from Nollywood. Now, every once in a while, a film comes along that doesn't just entertain you, it lingers. It really holds you in a way that you just can't entirely let it go, whether it's how it made you feel, or the visuals, or the sort of message that it passes across to its audience. There's just something that you always have to like hold on to long after you've seen the movie, even after you've seen it like two or three more times. You can't get past the fact that it feels like it crawled under your skin, like it made you think about your own childhood, your parents, even the country that you live in, and the situation of things. My Father's Shadow is one of those films. And today, I want us to sit with it. Like its themes, its visuals, and that haunting question at the end about whether or not this actually happened, or it was just a fragment of someone's imagination or a dream. So here's the gist without giving too much away. The film is set in Lagos in 1993. Obviously, I wasn't born then, but however, we are very familiar with like some of the things that went on there, especially like politically, with MK Abiola's election. The film is basically set against that backdrop of Nigeria, one of Nigeria's most politically charged years. So through the eyes of two young brothers, we see not just the turbulence of a country in crisis, but the chaos, or the subtle chaos of, like a family dealing with the absence of their father. And that's where the film really grips you. Like it merges the political rift with the personal dilemma that these kids are actually dealing with. Okay, now so let's talk about the themes here. And at its heart, My Father's Shadow is essentially about like fatherhood and absence. What does it mean to grow up in the shadow of someone who isn't even there? The thing with absent fathers, which has been a topic, honestly, every single time there's always a conversation about, absentee dads that one way or the other people try to rationalize or villainize. But I think it sort of keys into like a level of vulnerability from the dad side that people tend to maybe relate to, but it also still shines light on the effects of his absence. Whether or not it was intentional from a point of protection and provision, or whether or not he was just a man, a human being who obviously like had his flaws. One way or the other, we tend to look at this situation and reflect on the effects of an absent parent on the kids and the family dynamic. Well, it's bigger than family too. The Davies brothers tie this absence to the absence of the stability in Nigeria at the time, which hasn't really changed much if I'm being honest. Like in the decades that follow that time, we're still dealing with the same problems, we're still dealing with the same issues. It's crazy because in one of those scenes, actually, there was like conversation amongst like adults, and one of them said, I hope it will be better for our children. And we all laughed in the cinema because it's like, it's not. It actually is not. Like, we're still dealing with the same things you guys are complaining about in this country. The annulled elections, the sense of betrayal from the people who we actually trust to lead us, to protect us, and have our best interests at heart. The feeling that the country in itself was a father figure that abandoned its children. That parallel just absolutely brilliant, because it just makes a whole lot of sense. One thing I know is that a lot of people somehow struggle to tell two different stories simultaneously in a film. There's a huge contrast and a gap between them, but they were able to merge this so beautifully well. And the symbolism of the father being absent with his kids, and that's also somehow being like a really good parallel with Nigeria as a father, and how it is literally betraying its children, being us, or at least them then, and still us now, if we're being honest, because we're still facing the same thing. As a filmmaker, I think what really struck me the most is Akinola Davies's directing style. Honestly, like, this isn't something that, and I'm not even trying to throw shade or anything. I'm not trying to be funny, but you could somewhat tell that this isn't the usual content that we see in Nollywood. And this was going to be different right from the first few frames of the film. The first scene gripped me. He let it breathe. And that's something that a lot of movies nowadays don't do. And honestly, aside maybe the brothers being actual brothers in real life, the way that Akinola was able to like capture that first scene really sold it to me. Like, I was like, okay, I have no doubt in my head that these are actual brothers. You know, the conversation, the mannerisms, and etc. And then some of the shots that he took were like, even though they were cutaways or inserts, they just felt very raw. And seeing as they now had meaning later, even in the conversation, like when they talk about Undertaker and all of that, then you now realize later that, wait, is that even in relation to their dead father? And also, I think the part where you started hearing like wind, and you now start seeing or feeling like, oh, something eerie is about to happen. So initially I was like, am I about to watch like a horror movie or something, or a thriller, because it really felt like something was about to happen. And I think it now makes sense moving like forward in the film, that you now realize that, wait, that's why I felt this, because it now feels like the ghost of their father actually returned or something. It was raw but poetic, but it's poetic without being pretentious. Like, scenes were not rushed. As I said, he allows silence and like texture to really breathe, and there's almost this documentary like intimacy. I mean, it was shot in film, making it feel like memory fragments. At the same time, he structured the film like a fable, with a rhythm that feels kind of childlike but layered with like adult weight. He balances that very well, because you have the two brothers who are just kids. That's literally, they are kids unapologetically. But it still somehow doesn't get lost in that. It also holds like an adult weight in terms of like the emotions and the topics that it tries to address, and the message that it tries to pass on to its audience. Visually, the film is stunning. Is I would say it's a proper festival film. It's not the clean, crisp Netflix shots that we are used to and all of that, but it is visually stunning. The cinematography leans into like warm, grainy tones that like echo 90s Nigeria. That's why I say it's very nostalgic. Even though I wasn't like, I was born at the end of the 90s, but so I obviously have no recollection of that. But at the same time, it did feel like I was watching my country from like a time or a memory that I had. Almost like I was looking through an old family photo album, because we have that, right? You have like pictures from before you were born to even when you were born and all of that, so you felt like you were literally flipping through that. Now let's talk about the end, which I think was what really lingered with like everyone who saw it, or anyone who even goes to see it. Really, like, it's, you're either left crying or you're sitting in silence with questions. It actually was somewhat beautiful but disturbing at the same time. It was, because people had different interpretations, which was the intention of the director. He said he wanted people to, whatever meaning you want to give to it. Do you get? And this is a spoiler alert. If you've not seen it, please just end this video. Yeah, save it for later, or I don't know, but this is a spoiler alert, just so you know. But yeah, we see the boys spending one last day with their dad. But here's the catch. Was it actually real, or was it a dream? People keep asking, like, did Fola really come back to spend one last day with his sons, or was the boy just dreaming? Because he kept saying, oh, I will see you in my dreams, I'll see you in my dreams. But at the same time, it felt so real, like it actually happened. And in the second screening, because I saw it twice here, someone actually brought up, this conversation about akudaya, and I think is about when someone dies and you still see them, like maybe you see them around, maybe they come around the house or something. I think in some instances they even go and start a family elsewhere or something like that. Like they start a family elsewhere, and then maybe their wife or their husband is asking to see their family back home, and when it's now time to go back home, they just disappear. So it means that they were actually dead, but maybe their spirit or something was just still roaming the earth. So people had that theory that it was that. Fola had a few things that he needed to handle, like unfinished business. I mean, we see that he went back to Lagos to fight for his paycheck. And I feel like he wanted to give that money to his sons. He needed to leave them with something. He wasn't there, but at least let me settle them. That's what it felt like. So it was like, okay, he was still wondering, because every time people saw him in Lagos, they kept asking, I've not seen you in a while, are you, like, they were so surprised, mainly because they felt like he was one of the people who died in Bonny Camp, which was the case. But the thought of, is this person alive or dead, that really lingered throughout the film. You're just like, why are people treating him like this? Why are people acting this way towards him? Like, there's something about him, and even the symbolism with like the birds and flying over and etc. Flies, it just feels like, oh, is he a walking carcass? But then there's also the theory that it was a dream, because then we see the boys the following morning getting ready to go for like his burial, I guess. And the first son keeps making reference to seeing his father in his dreams. So there's just theory one, theory two, and honestly I don't even know where I stand because they were both represented in one way or the other. So maybe there was no one explanation, and maybe it's both. I love that it never really confirms. The ambiguity is the point. It forces us to ask, how do we actually cope with loss? The writer, Wale Davis, actually said that when he was writing that story, he realized that he never really took time to grieve the loss of his dad, because he lost his dad at such a young age, and he probably didn't really understand or remember enough to sort of process grief as we would as adults. So maybe this was his own way of doing that. And that just begs the question, like, how do people deal with maybe not the actual death of our loved ones, but the absence of them? My father's shadow isn't just a Nigerian story. I think it's universal. Anyone who has lost a parent or even felt abandoned by them will recognize or see themselves in this film. It proves that Nigerian cinema can be deeply introspective, personally and politically. It's a film that you carry with you, and it's also not a film that you see once. So if you think that, oh, I've seen it, please go and see it again. And go with people. Honestly, go with your father. Actually, go with your family. Go with a loved one that you feel you haven't connected with in a while. So, what do you think? Yeah, was Fola their father? Was he really there? Was it a case of akudaya, or was it all just the boy's dream? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I really want to hear what your interpretation of that end was. And if you do love the film breakdown, please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and turn on your notification buttons, because bro, when I say that there's more coming, please believe me. So yeah, please support your girl, though I'm really just a new YouTuber. But if you're like me and you're like in your 20s, you're 20 something or whatever, you're trying to make sense of everything that's going on, I think one thing that we can all agree on is you need a community. You need like people, be it your friends or family, but even externally, like a bigger community of people you can network with, people you can rub minds with, people you can build with, people who you can even just have fun with, honestly. And that brings us to the sponsors of this video. 20 Tribe is a social educative community for young people. Obviously, as the name connotes, people in their 20s, but also in their 30s. They recently launched a product that you can sign up for absolutely free, really. And it has loads of benefits for its members, such as coupons, discounts, jobs, exclusive access to certain events, and etc. So if these sound juicy enough for you, you should definitely sign up on 20's Tribe com. You really don't want to miss this. Is it Akodaya? What do you? Sorry, guys. I'll need. Eh? Akudaya. Yes. Ah, it's so weird that you guys are here. Sorry. I always record this name alone. The way you guys call me Flo, I'm not calling myself Flo. Okay. Okay.